Bob Chesney takes over at UCLA. He's got some good pieces that he brought in, but as well as some good pieces who return. We'll see how they can improve in year one with the new coach. Thank you guys for tuning in. My name is Colin Bashnigel, your host here at Bash's College Football Show. You can follow me over on TikTok if you just look up my name right here, Colin Bashnigel, or if you just look up Bash CFB on TikTok, it should do well for you if you just look that up. Make sure you guys like the video. If you like the video, let's get straight to it. All right, so we're going to be talking about the UCLA Bruins, and last year was not a good year, and it was the end of an era a little bit, the post Chip Kelly era, which I mean was kind of a downstream version of the post or of the Chip Kelly era with Deshaun Foster, who they ended up promoting after he left. They had a plan in place, and it did not work. And now they're trying to pivot, and they're trying to go the same type of route as other schools in the Big Ten who had success. And the first one that comes to mind is obviously Indiana with Curt Cignetti at JMU, having the success that he did. Well, Bob Chesney was able to replicate a lot of that success at JMU. We'll see if he replicates. I mean, that's a tall order to replicate the success that he had over at Indiana. Curt Cignetti did. But we'll see if we can at least get a glimpse of that. So last year, like I said, disaster. Their big win was beating Penn State after the Penn State loss to Oregon, and it was really the start of the downfall of Penn State under James Franklin. And UCLA can say that they at least did it, and they were pretty competitive there for a stretch there in late September, early October. They're looking to string together a pretty good season here. And you got to look at this 2026 roster. Obviously, Nico Iamaleava is coming back. That's going to be big for them. They also brought in a running back transfer from JMU and Wayne Knight. That's going to be big for them. I mean, when you're looking at this team all in all, like ninth in returning production. You have coordinators in Dean Kennedy and also Colin Hitchler, who came over with Bob Chesney. Too much talk about Curt Cignetti. These guys obviously being essentially brought with Bob Chesney to UCLA. It's guys that Chesney trusts, specifically when you look at Dean Kennedy on the offensive side of the ball. It's somebody who's been with him a little longer. Hitchler, only last year, but connections back in their coaching career. But I mean, even Dean Kennedy was at Holy Cross with him, so he's been with Bob Chesney a little longer. And like I said, with the Iamaleava back, with a good running back room, bringing in Wayne Knight, and then obviously Anthony Woods and Javian Thomas both coming back, they're going to be able to run the football, especially when you saw the effectiveness of Nico's legs a year ago, specifically in that big game that everybody remembers against Penn State. I'm going to be curious about this wide receiver room. Now, when we're looking at the wide receiver room, Leland Smith coming in from San Jose State obviously was not the crown jewel of that wide receiver room. Danny Scudero is really the one that people remember, but Leland Smith was a really good player as well for San Jose State and worth a shot at the Power 4 level, and he might be able to start. They also brought in Ellis from JMU. They brought in Aiden Mizell from Florida. So some talent entering with this wide receiver room, plus they bring back Mikey Matthews, who was really, really good and solid in the slot there. And I also don't want to skip over this Pfeiffer coming in as a tight end from JMU, also a pretty good player. So I could tell that the skill position, obviously Quasi Gilmer from a year ago was somewhat of a standout. I think they ultimately, though, did upgrade at that skill position level. Wayne Knight just added to the running back room that they basically already had. And then I think they upgraded at tight end. I think they upgraded at receiver, potentially. We got to see how these transfers are able to gel over here. Now, when you're looking at the O-line, only one guy comes back, and that is Eugene Brooks at the left guard position, the only offensive lineman starting that's going to be back for this UCLA team, and that's going to be big, replacing 4 of 5. Now, 4 of the 5 the four that you expect to fill in, very experienced guys. And Jordan Davis coming in from USA, South Alabama, a guy that I circled, somebody who really needs to make an impact for this team. He started his career at South Carolina, ended up over at South Alabama for more playing time. He earned it. He played well. He's going to have to now take the second opportunity at the Power 4 level and really take the most of it. Now, like I said, the rest of the offensive line is going to be experienced as well. As we transition to the defense here, the first thing I want to talk about is the defensive line full of transfers. Maxwell Roy coming in from Ohio State, going to be expected to start. Heard a lot of really good things. He was a talented young player at Ohio State who just didn't see the playing time route on the field, ended up leaving for earlier playing time, and it looks like he's going to get that. You're also going to have Tyson Ford, who comes in from California. A little bit of a lateral move maybe for him, but hey, opportunities there to be a leader on this defense there. And then you got a couple of guys transferring in, but the big one that I talked about from the edge was Sahir West. He had 7 sacks last year as a redshirt freshman at James Madison. He's going to have to be big time this upcoming year, show that development in this defense. And, you know, I think he can. I think he's got the capability. He certainly showed the flashes as a young player on film last year, and I'm excited to see what he can do now, leveling up a little bit in competition, as there is a big difference in Sun Belt offensive line versus Big Ten offensive linemen. So I think this front four, this defensive line, it's going to be a little bit shaky maybe. I mean, all these transfers coming in, you never know how that's going to work. It could certainly pop for them, but for most teams, it's just a little bit of gelling together that needs to happen, and I'm curious to see how that were to happen there. At linebacker, I kind of like what they have. So Jalen Woods comes in. He's the senior leader and definitely needs to step up, certainly on this defensive side of the ball. And then also another guy, and again, I hope this happens every single video, basically. Samuel Omosigo coming in from Oklahoma. Didn't play a whole ton over at Oklahoma. He's got a real chance to step up, though. That was a loaded front seven, a loaded defense, and he played a little bit, but this is his real chance to be the guy on a defense. So I'm expecting for Samuel Omosigo. We got it right eventually, I think. So we're going to expect him to step up, and this is a big opportunity for him as a leader over here. Now, in the secondary, you have a little bit of comfort. As UCLA fans, I think you looked at that as a strength of your defense. It wasn't always the most consistent, but something you can lean on. Certainly something you can lean on this upcoming year with 3 guys coming back in the back end. Scooter Jackson, Roderick Pleasant, they're going to be the 2 guys at corner that come back, and they're pretty comfortable with him, with those 2 guys in the back end, and they also are comfortable with Cole Martin, who had 65 tackles last year at the safety position, really good in the run game. The big spot is that other safety spot where they have 2 transfers coming in, both pretty good players. So Teo Johnson from Utah, a little bit more film, a little bit more of a body of work. Malik Hartford showed the flashes, played early at Ohio State, and that playing time kind of tapered off. This is a good opportunity for Malik Hartford to really show what he can do. That's going to be a battle to get onto the field because Teo Johnson is a good player. You also know that Cole Martin is a good player, but I guarantee you that Malik Hartford would not have gone over to UCLA if there wasn't a plan to get on the field. So that kind of wraps it up for our little roster preview and our roster discussion. We're going to look at the schedule here. If you take a look at what they have, a couple of in-state games early at California is going to be really tough. Jaron Keeves down in Politelli, a new coaching staff with Tosh LaPloy. It is 2 guys coaching their first games at their respective schools. Bob Chesney, obviously, being a head coach before, maybe a little bit of an advantage, but it's first-year head coaches on both sides of the ball. San Diego State's going to be a tough game. They were really, really good last year. Sean Lewis has that thing going in the right direction. That's going to be a tough game for UCLA. They get Purdue at home. I'm not super confident in Barry Odom's image right now. I actually think he has done a decent job, but it's just a messy situation over there, and I don't know if Barry Odom's the right guy to fix it. Maryland on the road, they're going to be an interesting team in the Big Ten because of their returning production, but they were also really bad, maybe the worst Mike Locksley team we have seen. Then you get a little bit of a gauntlet game off of a bye at Oregon. They're expected to contend for not only the Big Ten title, but a national title this year. Wisconsin, an interesting rebuild to talk about. Michigan State, first-year coach with Pat Fitzgerald coming back to the scene in the Big Ten. Then they get a random out-of-conference game with Nevada on Halloween. Jeff Choate, I was encouraged by him, but I haven't seen the results yet. At Minnesota, they have a lot of returning production too, just like Maryland does. Illinois, they're going to be replacing a little bit. They're still probably going to be pretty tough and pretty solid. At Michigan and USC is kind of a tough two-game stretch to finish the season. So let's get into the schedule predictions for the UCLA Bruins here. I got them losing on the road to California. I really like California's roster makeup, what they've been able to do from a front office perspective. Remember, Ron Rivera is kind of running general management type of duties over there at California. They've put together a pretty good roster, and I like Tosh Lepoy's plan, and also I really like what they're potentially able to do on defense to complement the young, good pieces that they have on the offensive side of the ball. So I got them starting off with a loss, not what anybody wants to hear if you're a UCLA fan, but this is going to be a real tough game. And who knows, UCLA could definitely surprise me in this instance. I would not be surprised trying to figure out, I'm just going to put this little disclaimer in here, trying to figure out UCLA this year was pretty tough. There's a lot of things I'm certainly encouraged by, and a lot of things I do question. So I kind of do want to see it on the field till I buy in. That's why I have them losing to California. Now, San Diego State, again, another team, they kind of return a good amount of production from a team last year that was one play away, essentially lost in, I believe it was double overtime to New Mexico. Maybe it was just overtime to New Mexico late. Jaden Denegal going into year two as a starter over there. It's just, man, I really do think that this UCLA team is going to be more talented. I really trust Bob Chesney in these types of spots. I think it's going to be a close game, but I do have UCLA surviving and advancing with a win against San Diego State. Anyway, I wish I would have brought some water with me. Purdue, at home. Like I said, I'm not big on the vision that they have over there. Purdue, kind of a tough job right now, especially with what Indiana's doing, is maybe going to raise expectations in the future, but I think they're realistic about their expectations. This is a long rebuild. It's going to take a long time to be really attractive to high-impact transfers. I'm going to take UCLA to win that game as well. On the road at Maryland, a lot of returning production. You got Malik Washington coming back at the quarterback position. They're going to be pretty decent on defense, too. This is going to be another one that's a tough game. The big difference to me is this is the first East Coast travel spot for our coach over here, Bob Chesney. So I'm going to take Maryland in the cross-country trip to get the job done. On the road at Oregon, off the bye, I just don't think UCLA has the horses to be able to run with Oregon. This is an easy call for me. This is one of the easier calls. To me, it's really the only guaranteed loss. Now, Michigan probably should also be a guaranteed loss, and USC, to a certain extent, should be too. It's just with all the question marks that UCLA has, there's a lot of positive that could come that I don't foresee, so I'm not going to call those guaranteed losses. But this one, I'm pretty confident in saying they're probably going to lose that game. Even if they are living up to the potential that they could, I don't think that their best is going to be better than what Oregon is going to present on the field this year. Wisconsin. I like what Wisconsin's doing. If you want to talk about tearing me apart when it comes to picking a game, this was the game that the hardest time picking, but you're 2-3 to this point. The home field advantage is not really going to be there, and on top of that, too, I really freaking like Colton Joseph, and Luke Fickell is coaching for his job. I think these types of games, Wisconsin's going to be able to find a way to win this year. If their offense ends up sputtering and it's not good this year, this is certainly a game that you can flip to a W for UCLA. And I promise, if you stick around long enough, there's a game or two on here that I have UCLA taking that you might say, maybe not. If this is a game you're saying I think they're going to win, You might end up flipping that with another game. Michigan State. Year one under Pat Fitzgerald. I'm excited to see where this goes, but this upcoming year, not too encouraged. I think there's a lot of culture rebuilding and a little bit to be done there for Pat Fitzgerald. He's always won with culture. It's not exactly going to be the case this year. There's just a little bit more of a job that needs to be done than what they have ready for a product in 2026. I'm going to take UCLA to get their third win of the season, and then they beat Nevada. Look, I'm a big fan of Jeff Cho. I don't know if the job's just too tough. I don't think it is, because when it comes to now, I think they're what? I think they're Pac-12. Yeah, they're Pac-12 now. Now being in the Pac-12, but even before that in the Mountain West, it's not like they had any less resources than most other teams in their conference. Like, obviously, Boise State elevated above the rest. UNLV in recent years elevated above the rest. But generally speaking, Nevada has resources. We haven't seen the results on the field yet. I want to see them, but I'm certainly not saying I'm going to see them to the point where they can beat UCLA. On the road at Minnesota, following that up, this is another far trip. I think they're going to be a little more prepared, but maybe Minnesota's a team I'm sleeping on, and I kind of have been thinking about that all day today when thinking about this preview. And this is, again, a game that I've been torn on, just like the Wisconsin game, except I trust Minnesota and their system a little more than Wisconsin. So there's no reason for me to pick UCLA to win if I expect them to drop a home game to Wisconsin. So I got them losing on the road to Minnesota, which will move them to 4-5 on the year as they go and play Illinois back at home. This is going to be an interesting game to me. Illinois is a little bit of a mystery team to me because obviously I thought pretty highly of them. I thought they played a pretty tough schedule last year, and that was a product of why they only went 8-4 a year ago. They do replace a little bit, but they also bring back a good amount. There's a little bit of a mixed bag within there. I don't know. I just kind of have a feeling this is one of those coin flip games again. There's really 3 of them that I flip a coin on, and this is one of them, and I got to give them one of them. So I'm going to take them to win against Illinois in mid-November at home, which is a little bit bold. I'm just a little bit hesitant and unsure about Illinois this season. I still think that Brett Bielema is a great coach. It's a great fit over at Wisconsin, or at Illinois, excuse me. I think that if this year is a little bit of a down year, they could be building for 27, and that's kind of a pattern we seem to see with Illinois. On the road at Michigan, Michigan's going to be really good, and you do not want to catch them late in the year. It's my biggest worry for my Ohio State Buckeyes. Playing Michigan last game of the season is going to be the toughest time to play Michigan. Think it's going to be a tough time for UCLA. The only big reason why you can maybe make a case that the upset potential could be there is because it's a week before Ohio State. I don't think they're going to be looking ahead. I think Kyle Whittingham's going to have the troops ready. I think Michigan's going to show they're the better team, flex their muscle. They got to beat USC to make a bowl game. Whew. Okay. I think this is maybe the most complimentary, complete team that Lincoln Riley has had. They're going to be able to run the ball really well, and I have a lot of faith in Iamaleava. The wide receiver room is going to be good. I don't know if it's going to be as good as it was last year, if they're going to have as dynamic of a throw game as they had at points last year. But I do expect for the defense to elevate a little bit, mainly because their talent, specifically within the front 7, has increased. Their talent on the offensive line has also increased. I just don't see UCLA matching up. I got them going 5-7, 3-6 within the conference. And look, I think that's fair. I don't think too many other pundits out there are going to have them any better than that. UCLA is going to be an interesting team. I love the Bob Chesney hire. I think that they definitely have potential to be a surprise team within the Big Ten. I'm just personally not going to sit here and call it. I hope you UCLA fans do respect that, but if you've made it this far, like the video if you like the video, subscribe for more content, and comment down below what you think of the UCLA Bruins coming up in 2026. I'm posting this on, Wednesday morning, so make sure you guys, like I said, leave a like, and I'm going to post another video later in the evening on Wednesday, so tonight, make sure you guys stay tuned for that. I'll see you guys in the next video.